When we think of the RMS Titanic, we picture its end. We see the supposedly unsinkable ship striking an iceberg on its maiden voyage in 1912, and then slipping into the pitch-black Atlantic. But the story of this ship didn't stop when it hit the ocean floor. The disaster immediately created a massive vacuum in global maritime infrastructure. It exposed a level of arrogance and a lack of preparedness that the shipping industry could no longer ignore. The Titanic exposed three massive blind spots in human capability. Across maritime law, acoustic engineering, and deep-sea biology, the failure of this single vessel forced humanity to innovate in ways we hadn't planned for. We often view the Titanic as a static historical relic. In reality, it acts as an active, relentless catalyst for human progress. Almost immediately after the sinking, official inquiries in the US and the UK began pulling the disaster apart. The findings were harsh, pointing directly to established seafaring practices. The first major failure they uncovered was that existing regulations didn't require passenger ships to carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board. The Titanic had merely followed the outdated standard practice of the time. The second failure was in communication. The Titanic carried pioneering wireless telegraphy equipment, but radio operators weren't required to stay on duty around the clock. Distress calls were missed or delayed simply because nobody was listening. The legal response was swift. By 1914, the UK led negotiations for SOLAS, the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, which mandated adequate lifeboats and emergency drills. Meanwhile, the Radio Act of 1912 required ships to monitor distress frequencies 24 hours a day. These laws also dictated physical changes to how ships were built. Future vessels were required to have taller bulkheads, improved pumping systems, and strictly compartmentalized hulls to resist flooding. To make sure nothing like this ever slipped by unnoticed again, the International Ice Patrol was formed to continuously monitor icebergs drifting through the North Atlantic. This single disaster ended the era of seafaring complacency. It provided the impetus for a modern maritime safety framework that still governs our oceans today. While the laws changed quickly, the physical ship itself became a ghost. For 73 years, the Titanic sat hidden beneath 12,400 feet of crushing water, out of reach until technology could catch up. That moment arrived in 1985. A joint mission between the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and the French National Institute of Oceanography was put together. The true purpose of the expedition was to conduct deep-water engineering tests for the military. Finding the Titanic was a secondary bonus. This diagram shows the initial strategy. The French team used a traditional method known as mowing the lawn, methodically scanning a grid to look for the massive, singular shape of the ship's hull, but their time ran out before they found anything. The search area was bisected by a submarine volley, and jagged geological features on the seafloor provided confusing echoes that obscured the ship from traditional sonar. With only 12 days left, the U.S. team took a different approach. Using a newly developed deep-towed camera and sonar system called Argo, they stopped looking for the main hull. Instead, they scoured the seafloor for a trail of much smaller debris. Yet, just as we finally managed to locate the Titanic, we realized we were rapidly losing it all over again, this time to biology. The moment the ship hit the bottom of the Atlantic, it became a deep-sea artificial reef. It was instantly colonized by pioneering microbes that secrete a sticky film, encouraging a whole ecosystem of deep-sea life to attach and grow. Look at how this chemical loop works. Among these early colonizers are iron-oxidizing bacteria. To survive, these microbes consume the ship, extracting energy from the raw iron and leaving behind massive structures of rust called rusticles. But the ecosystem goes further. A unique species of bacteria discovered on the wreck, named Halomonas titanicae, reverses this process. It consumes the rust and releases soluble iron back into the water, providing a rare nutrient source for the broader ocean. This deep-sea circle of iron effectively launched the field of maritime heritage ecology. The Titanic has become a laboratory for biologists and archaeologists to study exactly how the ocean reclaims human infrastructure. Because of this microbial activity, the wreck has a finite timeline. Experts estimate that within a couple of hundred years, this bacterial consortium will reduce the massive ship to a rusty smudge on the seafloor. We are already seeing the effects of this accelerated decay. Photographic surveys from recent expeditions revealed that the ship's famous bow railing has completely collapsed into the sediment. The physical ship was born from a place of human arrogance, but sitting 2 miles deep, it is vulnerable to the forces of nature. It will eventually be erased. That physical erasure stands in sharp contrast to what the disaster left behind. The legacy of the Titanic is the bedrock of modern maritime law, the technological blueprint for deep-sea acoustic mapping, and a living map of deep ocean ecology. We shouldn't define the RMS Titanic strictly by how it sank. We should look at how its loss forced humanity to adapt, meaning that long after the steel is gone, the ship survives as an engine of progress.